Bold predictions, the things that you believe to the point where you would bet your money on this. Well, one of you claims that you would bet your own hard-earned money on the winner of FSU versus LSU making the national championship game. That comes by way of Inlet, South Carolina. That's where Taylor lives. So this is a week 1 game, Sunday night. We'll start our show early because of this game on week 1. So the winner's going to the title game, huh? Well, right now, LSU has the 5th best odds. Is it to make the title game or win the title game, Jesse? I miss his voice in my ear. They got the 5th best odds to do one of the two, and FSU has the 9th best odds. So whoever wins that will have those numbers shift for them. Now, FSU still has a game at Clemson after this, and they got the rest of their schedule. LSU still has to go to Alabama, and they've got the rest of the SEC West to deal with. But you're not just talking about making the playoff. You're talking about them making the national title game. So they got to go win maybe their conference title game and certainly a semifinal game. That's just hard to predict. And so I'm calling it a 9. And these are good teams. And the winner of this team will certainly be set up well to where they could afford to lose a game along the way. I'm still calling that a 9, though. Now, as I say that, I'll also say, don't be punishing folks for scheduling tough games, because we all know what that leads to. Next up. This one sounds radical, but it's not that radical. So Peacher from Denton, Nate from Denton, Texas, said TCU will go from the national title game to 500 or worse. Do you think that's crazy? Because I think it's only about an 8.5 on the boldness scale. I don't have TCU below 500, but I will say their over-under win total is 7.5. Vegas doesn't think this is an overly crazy prediction. They were 12-0 in the regular season last year, and they won a game by 8, 7, 3, 7, 1. They had 3 wins by 10 points. So you lose Max Duggan. You lose your top 2 running backs. You lose your leading receiver. You lose your offensive coordinator. And you already played a bunch of close games last year. It's just logic, just basic foundational logic to think, yeah, some of these close games could just go the other way on you. Now, they'd need pretty much all the close games to go against them to go sub 500. So I don't think it's quite to that degree. But when you have losses like that, and then you have any kind of injury at those positions, that's when you go from a question mark position to a glaring weakness. But we don't predict injuries on the show. I'm just saying it's inevitable. They sometimes happen. I'm going to call that, I'm seeing if I want to change my mind. No, I'm going to call it an 8.75. That's pretty bold, but it's not the boldest thing in the world. I could see a world where that happens. Next up, I'm going to wait for Colin to put it up because I want you to enjoy this along with me. And I know this person too. So Chuck Williams down in Columbus, Georgia, of WTVM, WRBL, Ledger Inquirer fame. You've probably seen him on every network down there. Chuck said Peyton Thorne and Bo Nix will both be Heisman ceremony finalists. Bo Nix I got no problem with. I bought the Bo Nix stock the moment it was released. I have not bought Peyton Thorne Heisman stock, nor will I. And the reason is because I don't think Auburn will have a good enough record, and I don't think he'll have a good enough year. I am sorry to rain on the parade down there. This is a 9.75 on the boldness scale for me. Peyton Thorne is currently at plus 20,000 odds to win the Heisman. He was 19-11 TD to INT last year. He threw for under 3,000 yards. So he would need like another 1,500 yards passing. That TD-INT ratio has to go way up. Auburn just has to be way better than 6.5, which is their preseason over-under win total. And you're basically predicting half of the Heisman field here, Chuck. Charles, I can't do this with you. I cannot do this. And so I'm calling this a 9.75. Now, we can celebrate the fact that one of my dear, dear friends from Columbus has come on board and gotten one of the boldest predictions of the year. I just don't know if Chuck's actually putting his money on this. Lastly, this would be fun. Torrance, California, that's where Alex is. He said the Pac-12 is going to have an undefeated team at the end of the regular season. I don't think they are, so I'm going to call that a 9. The win totals, you've seen them flashed on the screen every single show we've had. To me, this has to be USC or Oregon. The odds makers kind of agree. Although Washington has the same win total as those two, I believe that in order to go undefeated, there is a certain caliber of roster you're going to need, and I think they have better high-end talent than Washington does across the board. Washington's a plenty good enough team, but the one that goes undefeated out there, if one does, they probably have the kind of players that USC or Oregon do. But unless one of them has improved their defense significantly, especially significantly in USC's case, it's a meat grinder of a schedule out there this year. And so I think everyone's losing at least one. That's the key for me. Who only loses one game? That'd be good enough out on the West Coast.